Yeah. Mm.
My name is Ma, and I work mainly in film industry as a set dresser slash designer in a duet with Argichu at Sheban and as a studio Maishu. We studied at the University of Art in Iceland, where we met each other and where we, basically did our master. After that, we worked a bit at Studio Irma in Iceland, and we decided to come to Berlin. So for a year now, we've been in Berlin, trying to get started here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Konstantin. Went through all kinds of different studies and life experiences to now arrive at learning horticulture at the university and working in cannabis for the Humboldt University here to take care of their plants and be there as a person for all the students who want to work with it as well. Mhm. I think the plant hypnotized me at some point. Just like there's a saying that goes around a lot in wheat circles and grower circles, which is like it's not sure if smoking weed is addictive, but growing it is. There's no question about that it's addictive, and I definitely feel that. Like as soon as I put a seed into the soil the first time and watched it grow, I was smitten. There was no way back. There was this I always want to learn more about this. So there's little tweaks every time. With every growth cycle, I learn something new, but also even more questions open up, so that I then want to grow even more to answer these questions. And it's just this. It's been an ongoing process for probably 6, 7 years now that hasn't slowed down. On the opposite, it's been accelerating through this time. Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it feels like this. Yeah, there's this like in this theory that we didn't domesticate grains. The grains used us to become the most widespread species of plants. And I could feel this working with marijuana too, like with cannabis and all the different needs it fulfills from fiber. So you have clothing, robes, you have these incredibly nutritious seeds, you have a plant that looks beautiful, smells beautiful, and also has psychedelic effects. Yeah. Mhm. I see it as like a companion plant to humans in a way that like dogs are these obvious companion animals. It's like they were wolves once, but now we have so many varieties, and they're like this buddy to humans. And humans have such intricate relationships to dogs, and I see cannabis like that, but as a plant. Mm. Yeah.
Uh, oh, I don't really think about that. So, yeah, I think it has very much many faces, and it's very, yeah. For me, it's just the intuitive and free form of expression as a being, as a human, I guess, if I think about it. and try to put it into words and explain what art can be. Yeah,
I like that.
very
Yeah,
simple.
yeah, it's very in line with the answers I've been getting from people. Like there's this unspeakable language that unites us somehow, kind of speaks to our humanity more than ever.
Yeah, yeah,
It's gonna be the title of the book.
yeah.
Play.
What is art?
Yeah, some kind of version
Mhm.
of that.
Mhm.
Our
Mm.
common humanity spoken through these open levels of expression.
Mhm.
Like, and one thread that's coming up more and more is we need to try and start like the expression of science through art. We still see like conventional horticultural
Mhm.
experiments where that's our field. You
Mhm.
put all your attention and love into a plant,
Mhm.
and then you reap rewards of it, whether it's a
Mhm.
wonderful, nutritious, tasty tomato or whatever
Mhm.
it is.
Mhm.
I have a friend who's been growing tomatoes with like, amazing passion. And I never liked tomatoes. And then one day out of politeness, he was like shoving one in my mouth. And I was just like, okay, okay. And then I was like, what's this?
Uh-huh.
This is not a tomato. This is,
Mhm.
this is something else.
Mhm.
For sure.
What do you think of his interests?
Um, I guess, yeah. When we met, you were a lot into a method of working with people called The Work by Byron Katie, and it feels like it tells a lot of about yeah, your way of also working with people and plants, and maybe you would like to explain a little bit what is the work, so we have the same basis, because it feels like for me it really connects a lot into how you work with anything,
Mhm.
and here in this particular yeah,
Mhm.
plant, let's say, yeah,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
explain maybe a little
Mhm.
bit of what the work
Mhm.
with Byron Katie is.
I will start with like a hidden premise of the work of Byron Katie, like what it needs to, yeah, what it just needs to be able to work, the foundational beliefs, and this is that we have this world around us. Nobody really knows what it is exactly, but we all have, but it's definitely out there, and we all have our own story about the world. Like what I believe about the world, what I believe about myself, what I believe to be true about physics, about relations of people, about psychology, all of this big story of the world and the world. And the interaction of these is what we experience as life. Like this is everything we experience. We can't really experience the story directly because we only experience the story as it crashes into reality. And this crash can be either very soft and nice and easygoing when it's aligned very well, or it can create tension, it can create stress, it can create a whole plethora of negative states. And the work would be targeted at going to exactly these points, these strong clashes of my story and the world, which show itself through stress, anxiety, depression. Like all of the foundational belief is that wherever this is strong,
Thank you.
that wherever we have a lot of stress or anxiety or depression, or actually any, that there we have a discrepancy between our story of the world and the world itself. So the work goes there and it singles out these moments, looks at, okay, what is, and that shifts into the full story mode. Like, what is my story about the world in this situation? Like, what do I believe about this person? What do I believe about myself when I'm with this person? This is the first part of the work, because this is already a lot of work to get all of this down. And then you take each of these thoughts, like each of these will be boiled down into one single thought, like I am not enough, or this person is too negative for me, things like that. And then you have the method of the work, which is to ask yourself, okay, is it true? Like, is this really true? Am I not enough? And not to go with your mind's answer, but to get quiet and to listen, like what comes up, what is your true answer, and then you're okay. Is it true? Maybe I feel like it is. Maybe I don't. But then the much more important question is what happens when I believe that to be true. Like like what happens to my interaction with the person? How do I treat myself? All of these, and then lastly, like who would I be? What would life be like right now if I didn't believe that? If I, for example, if I just couldn't believe it, if I would be inhibited from believing that, or just if it weren't there. I wake up one morning and it's not there. And then to just imagine, because this reality is imaginable. And then the last part is to go into all the opposites of what I originally believed, like this person is too negative, I'm not enough, to turn it around into its opposite and find how all of the possible opposites are and have been true in exactly these situations. Like for me, I had this strong story of I can't really communicate about emotions or have access to my emotions that way because I was never taught that at home. My parents didn't live there. And then once I really started going in there, I saw all these fuck. I have these memories of my mom coming to me asking me things and I was blocking. So oh no, they weren't they were not the ones emotionally shut off. That was me all along. It was more true about myself, and I could see the opposite in them. And then again, okay, you might think, okay, now I have this negative thought about myself. I wasn't able to do that, but then I can see, like, okay, what does that mean? What do I think that means? And then it's the next level of the work because this can also be turned around. This also has effects on this interaction of story with the world. And this was what I was into a lot before we met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, then we met, and I didn't really know you grew plants yet.
Mm.
And then, yeah, it made sense to me once I got to know you grow weed because uh, um it's such a special, very special plant uh, that especially in its psychedelic effects, has this very eye-opening experience for some. It provides this eye-opening experience for some people, and yeah, it made sense for me that you combine these two worlds of working with the mind basically and with the body, and yeah, and I feel like you combine these two very well, and also the plants themselves are basically like our family kind of right now. We have this, you know, beings in the house that are taken care of as much as we take care of each other, and it's just, yeah, it's like it's a very special connection that I'm very happy to be a part of through your fascination with the plant, and the way you interact with the plant. And I think it's very special because it's not only for the harvest, or you know, or yeah, because it's fun, but it's really treating them as beings, and each is different, and each needs different attention, and it's just um, yeah, it's very beautiful to see you interact with them um, in that way. That is not as common, I think. Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love
Mm.
that. Now I'm thinking about like how the plants are a manifestation of what do you call it, like your reality.
Mm. Mhm.
There's a I read a like a series of articles the emergence of consciousness.
Mm.
One of them was about the only way that you can generate a true sense of self
Mm.
is by being aware of your impact on your environment.
Mm-hmm.
Until you meet another
Mm.
and are forced to project yourself into their responses to
Mm.
you, are never really fully developed,
Mm.
you don't know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. That reminds me of a thing I heard about. I never fact check it, so I don't know if it's true, but it's a beautiful story nonetheless. It was in Uruguay. They had a project where they had, it was a reintegration project for criminal youth, and they would let them grow a cannabis plant, and what they had at the end, what they harvested, they could keep, because and just this process of having a plant that reacts so strongly to everything you do, and you have to take care of it every second day, and it's a process of several months where you constantly have to have your awareness focused on another being, and you see what you are doing to this being has a direct effect on this being the whole time. And I think that ties in very nicely to this exact consciousness, like, ah, yeah, I have impact on everything around me, and here it's just so visible and so clear. Like, oh, I was too caught up, I forgot to water, and then all the plants are just like hanging. Yeah, I connect to that a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
Also,
that's what I also learned a lot in Iceland with, for example, a friend, Svenny, who studied with me, and he was doing lots of experiments with not humans, but like, for example, bacteria or yeast, and he was just in love with beer. So he thought, okay, let's make this beer project where we're gonna brew a beer to different music, different types of music, and see how it affects the microorganisms. Or let's collect wild uh, yeast or bacteria from all over the island and see how different the beer will be based on different environments the wild um, microorganisms come from. And yeah, I just love that in Iceland, especially that there is space for thinking and exploring in these free ways, something that is not that common in the place where I come from, in Poland or here. It also feels much less pragmatic in a way, like yeah, there is this place for exploration in Iceland that I haven't found anywhere else. And I would love to see, for example, oh yeah, these kind of projects being done with weed.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's more space?
First of all, it's just more comfortable. I think there is like the levels of um, satisfaction with material life, and like yeah, I felt much more safe in Iceland. For example, it was much easier to earn money for a living, much easier to be warm in winter, even though it was very cold and dark. It was just comfortable, very comfortable life there, basically. So I think also because of the history um, of Iceland is not that it's quite new and fresh. So there is lots of space for building on the ground that hasn't been built on yet much in comparison to like history of Germany or other European country. And then also, yeah, I think there is space for it mentally. People are much more open for what here would be considered a silly experiment or something. In that, something not significant there, it's actually being taken seriously. And this was one of the main reasons I really loved being in Iceland for a few years. Just, you can think of much more surreal or, yeah, um, different experiments ways of living or interacting with others and other beings, just because it's so also shut off from everything else. So there is kind of, yeah, there's lots of space for that, I feel. And yeah, I haven't experienced that anywhere else, really. Yeah. I also went to a very special program in Iceland, which was only lasted for like a few years, which was led by very interesting designers, Garðar Eyjolfsson and Thomas Pausch, who deal a lot with interspecies relations and advanced technologies, and they kind of yeah, they encouraged a lot their students to experiment and question and go, you know, kind of beyond the narratives that there are now, and try to look into, like, speculate about the future, or things like this, or question why things are like this and not uh, like, yeah, in other way. Or yeah, it was just very special environment to be in. And yeah, and now take it from there somewhere else, it's also interesting to come out from there and be now in Berlin. And it feels like it's definitely a mindset you carry also yourself. You're much more into, even with the plant, reading to a plant. Why not? Why playing music to a plant, and just existing with it as with a person, and not only yeah, uh, an alien or something out of this uh, earth ecosystem. Yeah, it feels very close to also the way you act with the plants. Yeah.
Where to go from here?
Where to go from here?
Yeah, that's already very beautiful. Really, the comment on like the openness of Iceland. I'm hearing that regularly, so now I'm really curious to kind of explore
Yeah.
Mm.
why. Is
Mm.
it something that can be replicated in small areas, maybe within Berlin, or are you always by your
I think
environment?
it's very special, this environment of Iceland, and I don't think it can be easily replicated anywhere else, because it's like a whole country in a way that is very much encouraging this,
Mm.
and it's not possible to find it on a bigger scale. I think it's even if it's something like an organization that, or group of people that works within a bigger system, it's still very hard to move around this bigger system and deal with, like, bureaucracy, or things that you don't have to really think much about in Iceland, and that's really beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't
You
know.
didn't feel any heaviness in the Icelandic winter?
Mm. Yeah, of course, it's the downside of it is that it's very particular in its climate, and there are people also, there is so little people, you just kind of sometimes get stuck within a very similar mindset, even if it's progressive. I felt personally sometimes I really wanted for somebody to challenge me, because everybody was thinking in the very similar way. And it's something you can definitely find in bigger cities. Like here in Berlin, it's amazing that you can really go into very different points of view and different mentalities, and question your own beliefs, uh, mingling with people on the streets, or it's great. um, but of course, it's not all beautiful in terms of living on a small island in a very small group of people, with extreme weather conditions. But if you are in a moment of your life where you really want to experiment and explore different narratives, points of view, or do some kind of a project, like grow weed in a greenhouse and see, how it can be done differently than it is right now. I think that Iceland is pretty much perfect for that in many ways. Yeah.
If you go,
Hmm.
can you recommend a book?
A book.
Your life. We're only gonna read one more book.
I depends if you don't mind if you don't mind a very neurotic author, then Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace is the book that I think everybody should read. That's like almost 30 years old, but it feels closer to what life actually feels like than anything else I have read. And it's told with such a humor and love for its figures, and uh, really like not a single person in the book is unimportant or is being judged by the author. I feel like sometimes you get a very clear feeling of what the author thinks are good people and what the author thinks are bad people. And with him, it just feels like he has such a deep understanding for all kinds of people, and that none are better than others. So you have all these, and all of that with a ton of humor and a far-reaching scope. Is incredible.
What?
Yeah.
What's it called?
Infinite, infinite jest.
Infinite Jazz?
Infinite
Just
jest.
Jazz.
It's about
jazz.
a piece. It's not far in the future, and it's about a piece of entertainment that is so incredibly entertaining that as soon as people see it, they get so addicted to it they never want to do anything else in their life again. And like they just sit in front of the TV, they poop themselves, they don't want to eat anymore, they just want to rewatch this video. It doesn't really tell you what it is all the time, and but this is only a part of what's happening in the world. Then you get this deep dive into the life of a few kids that are in this high level tennis academy, and he's constantly comparing like how tennis they have their tennis coach there who's constantly comparing tennis to all of life, because you're not really playing against the opponent, you're always just playing against yourself. You're by what you pass on to the other person, you're setting yourself up for what you will get back, and life within life. It's just beautiful because there's so much sensitivity and intelligence and humor and rawness. Really, I've been blown away by the book, and it sent me on a journey of just trying to find something comparable for months. Yeah, Infinite Jest.
Any final words that you can think of? Pass on into the future.
Final words.
Final words.
Treat plants as living beings. Because for me, was a big shift for me that I would love to share with people, because it's so obvious in a way, but it only started for me this past last year maybe. I was like, holy shit, plants are freaking living beings. It's not just decoration or ornamental things standing around, but they're actual living beings like us, like animals, like yeah.
I'm reading
Uh,
The Secret Life of Trees.
yeah, I read it. Also very beautiful.
Completely, changing my view
Hmm.
of trees.
Hmm. Yeah.
But it's
Um,
some challenges now. It's I've dealt with, I eat meat.
hmm.
So I've dealt with that all my life. I got
Hmm.
that slight guilt out of being part of the
Hmm.
suffering of animals.
Yeah.
And now the suffering has extended to plants as well.
Uh-huh.
Now, like, you see all these flying into Germany, you see all these buildings,
Mm-hmm.
and you see the forests that have just been cut down and pushed aside,
Mm.
without some
from the books, you could also read the Overstory of Richard
Mm.
Powers. I
Mhm.
think it's a really good book.
Which one?
Overstory, Richard Powers. It's really, I would recommend
Mm.
this book for sure.
Yeah, but wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's a really really good book, especially in terms of trees and plants and living beings. And yeah,
Mm.
it's really
I
beautiful.
had it the other day. I didn't start it, but
I recommend. Yeah,
but
for
the
sure.
time of our singing isn't that also?
I don't know. I think you tried to read something else by him, but it was from his youth and it wasn't really
Yeah, it
good.
was the Galathea. It was about people trying to build a language model that then could talk like a human, pass a normal literature test.
Yeah, it's
With reading it now is a bit with
not
ChatGPT,
interesting.
and you're like, oh, all of that has been solved.
Yeah.
You're speculating around something that it
Yeah, it's in the past.
never
But
the overstory.
Overstory is it's great.
Mhm.
It's one of my favorite books for sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Mhm.
Right.
Yes.
Thank
Thank you.
Cool.
you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for interviewing.